You have to be a certain type of person to actually enjoy working in a startup.
In a startup, you need to be trying new things constantly.
If we always got everything right, we'd never learn anything.
Welcome to The Launch, a podcast by founders for founders, following the journeys, learning and experiences that founders go through from setting up, raising investment and exiting and everything in between. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, James.
Cheers for having us.
Absolutely. So these are both from Neural Voice. I suppose, first of all, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction of what Neural Voice is and what you both do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jeremy Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of Neural Voice. Founded Neural Voice about 18 months ago. We started working on it, and we kind of developed it around the idea of how do we make AI technology more natural sounding, so it feels conversational. I'm a big sci-fi fan. I love Star Wars, and I always loved how robots and droids within Star Wars and Star Trek felt like you were speaking with a human. So really wanted to start to emulate that. So Neural Voice is a voice-based AI platform where you can create your own voice agents and set them up on your website to answer conversations, calls that customers might have, and help create that agentic AI workflow.
Very good.
Yeah, and I'm Harry. I'm the lead software engineer for Neural Voice, and I've been there since the start of it, since its inception. If Jeremy's the dreamer visionary with all the ideas, I'm one of the guys that has to build it all and make it all. So yeah, I've been working on it since the start, since I was a junior in the company, and now working my way up to lead software engineer and tackling all the challenges that come with that.
Yeah, could not do it without Harry.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it sounds like, I mean, how big's the company? How many people have you got within the team?
Yeah, so we've got 5 full-time people within the business now and a couple contractors that work on it. We're mainly a development team at the moment, starting to build out that commercial division as we move into our seed funding round, and we're starting to bring customers on board now as well. So the business over the past 6 months has really started to change and develop as we move more from just development and working in the background to working more public-facing now, and that's been a fantastic journey.
Cool. And so what are the main applications for the technology then?
The main application that we first started to explore came from just one of my biggest hatreds in the world, which is being on hold. I absolutely hate calling up. Yeah, everyone hates it. You don't want to be on hold for a service you're paying for. If I'm actively paying you money as a customer, I should not be waiting half an hour to speak to you to get the service I need to support the thing I'm paying you for.
Absolutely.
So that's what we started looking at with Neural Voice, is how we can make that wait time go from half an hour to 5 seconds. So Neural Voice can pick up the phone, answer the questions, get you on your way, or take you to a human that can help you deal with those problems in a bit more detail. So that was one of the first applications we started looking at technology for.
Yeah,
Cool.
I suppose you could think of it in any way that you need to communicate with a business using your voice. That's where we can help.
Yeah.
You know, receptionists, call centers, anything that you're talking to a business and trying to find information or trying to do something that would require somebody, a real person doing something, your voice can do it instantly. So
inbound as well as outbound, or?
Inbound's a really big area for us right now and where we're seeing the most growth within the business. So my background is sales and marketing, run a few different sales teams throughout my time and my career. And you spend a lot of money on BDRs and SDRs that are just handling inbound sales. And the thing that is most important when it comes to inbound sales is that time to first conversation.
Yeah.
So if you're able to respond to an inbound lead with a phone call within 5 minutes, you're 21 times more likely to convert it than if you wait half an hour. And it's diminishing returns from that point onwards as well.
Wow, yeah.
But most people can't respond in that time. You've got your lunch breaks. You're not working from 6 p.m. in the evening to 9 a.m. Or you've got another 100 leads that you need to be chasing.
Yeah.
So if you can't respond in that time, you're throwing away money. Whereas Neural Voice, as soon as that lead hits the inbox or fills out a form, phone call instantly, answers their questions, so they're happy, they're getting their questions answered straight away, qualifies them for the business so the business gets the information they need, and instantly that meeting can be booked with a real human to actually take that sales process down the pipeline.
Cool. So I guess it works really well for businesses that are getting high volume of calls, high volume of frequently asked questions.
Yep.
So what industries would you say more specifically are you focusing on?
One there's 2 industries that we're doing really well in at the moment. One is the travel space. We're working with a travel business at the moment that last year was getting about 20-30 leads a day. And these are quite custom tours. So there is a sales process there. It's not a quick conversion on a website type of travel company. They're now getting about 200 leads a day with a new agency they're working with, and they've not scaled up their sales team at all. So 2 people managing 200 leads a day. Their average wait time for a call after that lead comes in is 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
So their actual connect rate when they pick up the phone is less than 5%.
Yeah.
Neural Voice can come in and have those conversations straight away. And instead of the salespeople spending all of their time chasing all of these leads, they can now focus on closing them and actually getting the sales. So their conversion rates start to skyrocket.
Phenomenal. And so how do you go about building something like that?
Well, you've really got to think about it. So in the early days, when we first started kind of building the product, there'd been a few proof of concepts, a few kind of like hacky prototypes that we'd done. Just to kind of get it in the door of people and show people what it can actually do. And then as we've scaled up and we've got more customers, more integrations, and way more product that's available, you really need to rely on a good team. And I think something that we've been really fortunate in is that we seem to have found every single developer that we've brought in has had something unique about them, some really good skill sets. We've got some people that are amazing at their platform work. They can really handle infrastructure and just get on with it and do it. We've got people that are so detail-oriented and test-focused that as soon as something breaks or as soon as something goes wrong, they're on it immediately.
Yeah.
I think the best way of building it is to sort of, and it's hard in a startup, I think, because there's constantly new things. Everyone's always talking about the next big thing, the next flashy thing. Your attention immediately gets drawn to that. And it's sort of like, it's my constant fight with Jeremy of like trying to go, look, mate, I know that's really cool. Let's try and build this first.
I like the flashy things.
Yeah. So we're constantly, you've got to really handle the direction changing, but also focusing on your main goal. And I think with the team that we've managed to build, the way that we can kind of build this and iterate through this process is just slowly and steadily. And every now and again, you got to throw a bone to Jeremy and be like, yeah, okay, we'll look at that
try
thing now. Yeah, we'll try it out. But
You've got your entrepreneurial starter and you've got your operational finisher. So
exactly, yeah.
Seems like a good marriage to me. Very good. So tell us about the whole journey of how you came about, and in particular, obviously I've had the benefit of seeing the product as well.
Yep.
Maybe give your web link a shout out and talk a bit about AI Steve and kind of, I suppose, your journey up until this point.
Yeah, so AI Steve was a really big one for us. Some people might have seen it in the news, some people might not have, but our chairman at the time and one of our first investors, Steve Endicott, he was running to be MP in Brighton and Hove. He's always wanted to run in a proper political election. So he decided to use neural voice so we could clone him in AI form. So we took his voice, trained an AI on it. That took about a month of training to get the voice nailed down. And then we trained it on all of his political views and his policies that he wanted to enact. That meant that anyone could go on the AI Steve website and have a conversation with him and talk about his policies, put their ideas across, argue with him if they wanted to. The journey of that was crazy, though. So we'd planned to launch on a Tuesday, I think it was. And then suddenly, on a Sunday evening, probably like 6, 7 p.m., I started getting these pings in my email. So the Sunday before, I could see something was going crazy on our system. And I found out that a political page on Twitter had found AI Steve. So when you run to be an MP in the UK, you register your name and you register a known as. So something that people commonly refer to as. That can be whatever you want. So Steve had registered as AI Steve, and he would appear on the ballot as AI Steve. So Brighton and Hove have released who would be on the ballot for that election. The political page had picked this up and found the website and shared it out. So by the time we'd realized what was going on, it already had like 200,000 impressions, and people were speaking to AI Steve. We got like 5,000 calls just that night. And that was kind of our first test of, okay, we've built this great technology that's really interesting, sounds really real. Does it scale? We don't know. You can't just get 5,000 people in a day to make a call. So it was kind of our first kind of, this scales. The only issue we did have that night was because we weren't expecting it to go live until Tuesday, we had billing limits in place. So we hit like a £300 billing limit from one of our providers, and I was getting pings from them like, you're getting errors because you've not paid your bill. So I had to quickly log on. I was at my parents at the time, log on, up our billing limit. But then that ended up going viral. On Monday morning, we were inundated with PR requests. We ended up on BBC News, ITV, The Guardian, Fox News in the US. We ended up with about 30,000 calls being made to AI Steve. That was a great experience, though.
And nothing broke, which I thought I was most impressed by. Is that so it got leaked early, And it was the first time we'd ever seen our system used by other people as well. So we were still very much in a demo phase and we were building up slowly. And then I get a kind of semi-panicked message on Sunday night being like, people are using it. And we're like, how are they using it? It hasn't been released. And then throughout that whole week, the only issues we had were because we'd set restrictions on billing. And the whole system stood up to all the scalability. Yeah. No one managed to get any crazy information. No one managed to break it in any way.
Oh, that was the fun bit, wasn't it?
Listening to recordings of people trying to break it and do mental stuff.
You had so many people that wanted their gotcha moment, so they were doing their best to make AI Steve racist. We had some people that would spend 20 plus minutes having a conversation, just trying to get him to say something racist, trying to do some prompt engineering on it. And it held up. Like, it would shut the conversation down, not go any further, say either you're discussing the politics with me or something related to it, or I'm not discussing it with you, which is exactly how we trained it to act in these situations.
Spoken like a real politician.
Yeah. Exactly.
There was one that was really good where we were listening to the recordings back because we were fascinated by what people were actually going to speak to it about, especially with the application of it being a politician. And I think we got a lot more international coverage and use than we thought we would, considering it's a UK politician. But there was a recording that was a German computer science professor that was showing it to his class, and you can hear the recording of it in our system, and they're all trying to ask it crazy questions, and then they started speaking to it in German. And he responded and then went, no, sorry, I can't talk in German, actually. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting thing where you're trying to figure out the limits of a product you've made, but largely unknown stuff. And it completely stood up to all the tests that we put up to.
But interesting point, though. I guess with the advancement of AI and language models, quite easily being adopted into this kind of tech, I guess that it scales in different languages, that it's applicable to, pretty much any language out there.
That's a developing side of the business and something that's really important for us to tackle. So right now we can do about 24 different languages out of the box if you know the language that person's going to speak before the conversation starts.
Right,
So we're not able to detect the language on the fly and start talking with that language.
Okay.
But we don't think we're far off from being able to do that. And once we're able to do that, we can hook that up in a main call center, and you no longer need to outsource to different countries. You can have one phone number or one agent that works for everybody, detects their language straight away, speaks to them in that language. You're suddenly in-housing all of these conversations that before you've had to use agencies that you don't really have any control over.
Yeah.
So now you've got all of your data in one place that you can use in Snowflake or whatever platform you want as a data lake to mine that data, get as much information out as possible so you understand your customers better, but you control the conversation at that point as well.
More consistency.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue with outsourcing your call centers. Consistency disappears because you're working with people that you don't have control over, you're just speaking to the management of this call center, and you're reliant on them doing a good job. When you're using an AI agent, it's not going on holiday, it's not got turnover, it's not got... It says the same thing in the same situation time after time after time.
Yeah. And I guess thinking of industries that are quite compliance heavy, insurance, for example, I guess the potential impact in that kind of industries must be unreal.
Yeah, exactly. You can hit your compliance script every single time without fail. It's not going to make that mistake.
Wow.
It doesn't make mistakes. I think that's the big thing. If you tell it to do something, it's going to do it. So...
What's the worst mistake it's made so far?
One where somebody wanted us to make a AI clone of themselves, just to kind of show off what the technology could do. Like, that's not what we sell to people, but it's an interesting gimmick of the technology. So it was a colleague of theirs that wanted it done of that individual, so they could kind of be like, look what I've done of you. The person asked, where do I live? It got it wrong. But that's good training data fault. We weren't given the right training data, so we were giving his LinkedIn profile, which had the wrong location on it.
Oh, really?
But when the person that it was meant to imitate tried it out, it felt like, okay, it clearly doesn't know me, it's making this mistake. So it all comes down to the training data you provide it. If you provide it with the right training data, it's going to get that information right.
Yeah, I'd say ultimately, things, when it makes mistakes, it's not a system or an app fault. It's because something you've told it is wrong.
Yeah.
And you're asking it to do something that it can't do. If you know how language models operate and the way that you interact with them and how you prompt engineer and stuff like that, it's going to do fine. But as soon as you start asking it to do things that are a bit like, it's essentially a language model at the end of the day, that's when it faults.
So one for the tech experts and engineers. Do you want to talk a little bit about the tech stack?
I think you got the main sort of things that break down any sort of voice interaction, which is you've got a speech to text, a language model, and then a voice synthesis model. It's how you work with all of those to reduce the latency and make it as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
So it's all that secret sauce that kind of goes in the middle of it to make it into a realistic human interaction. The bit that most people care about is the language model, because LLMs, big buzzword.
Yeah.
We've made a system that's in language model agnostic, though, haven't we?
Yeah, so we can completely interchange and go into any language model you want, any kind of voice provider you want. If you know what you want, you can plug it straight into our system, essentially. We've got a bit of kind of our own stuff in the middle that is what makes us
Secret
unique.
sauce.
Yeah, and we can't really go into too much about that. But yeah, if you want to use GPT, if you want to use Claude, any of this stuff that you want to use, we can plug it in and plug and play and do anything you want with it.
An interesting example of that, again, is AI Steve. So we were using GPT 4.0 at the time. I don't think Mini had been released yet. AI Steve got the attention of OpenAI. So they came to us being like, really like what you've made here, but no, you're not doing it. We've got a very firm stance against politics in 2024 because there's so many elections taking place.
Yeah, but
we don't want anything to do with politics, so please stop using our model. Which was, if we hadn't made a system that was agnostic and we could swap it in, we'd be screwed. We'd have to shut AI Steve down. But it took me making a couple changes, like 5 minutes of work, and we swapped to an open source model that we had full control over. So I think it was Llama 3.1 at the time we swapped to.
Yeah, it was.
The outputs changed slightly because it's a different model, but the overall way the model works, very similar. So the outputs were still just as strong, just as effective, and it was so easy to swap off. They said no, we said fine, we move over.
yeah, very good.
It was pretty cool to see as well, like a massive company like that, kind of almost taking notice of what you're doing and being like, hold on a sec there, guys. Like, let's backpedal on this.
Yep.
And also seeing how when we switch models, how that kind of changes the output of it, and playing around with all the different settings, models, different plugins that we could use to just generate some sort of stuff. Because some of the models, when we were trying in the very early days of like using open source, there's very little kind of guard railing on them. So it was easy to kind of, as you're saying, when it made mistakes, to reverse engineer them.
Yeah.
And it's you work through combinations of different models and settings and like temperature set, all this kind of stuff. And you find something that works well. And one of the reasons AI Steve works so well is because we found a way of it not saying stupid stuff. And that's kind of through experimentation.
Yeah.
And a lot of Jeremy saying, do this, get this model in.
Yeah, and constantly like benchmarking the models in our own system, but also looking at just industry standard benchmarks. One of the issues that's kind of inherent with a language model for our sort of use case is a language model's trained on accessible data. So it's trained on books, it's trained on academic papers, it's trained on articles that you find on blogs. It's not trained on human conversation.
Yeah.
It's not trained on, but it might be trained on some podcasts, but people don't speak in conversation how they speak in podcasts. Like if I was speaking to you one-on-one at the pub, James, we wouldn't be speaking like this, really. It'd be a different sort of interaction.
Yeah.
A lot more slurred words.
Yeah, probably.
Probably more sense.
So making the model conform to a conversational style that feels natural as well, there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah.
And making sure you're training it on reliable conversation-based data to make a model actually conversational rather than write me a blog.
Yeah. And doing it, you mentioned latency before as well, doing it at a pace that feels comfortable, because I guess one of the issues that you could have with a system like this is someone just losing patience with it, or not feeling like they're not getting what they want out of it quick enough, or that it's not understanding them quick enough.
So that was when we first started working on the very first prototype. That was the thing I focused on most for it. I wanted it to feel human from a latency point of view.
Yeah.
Even if the voice sounded crap at the end of it and it was only picking up half the words I said, I wanted to say something and get something in a human-like response time. So the average human responds and is able to think about something and get a response out in 0.45 seconds in a natural conversation. Neural voice averages around 0.5 seconds, so very similar.
Yeah.
We had an issue at one point where we made some changes that made neural voice start responding at about 0.2, 0.3.
It was too quick.
Yeah. It sounds like pre-programmed responses.
Yeah. People don't believe it if it's too fast as well. So we are working on, latency all the time, dropping it down, getting it as quick as possible. And then people are like, this is too quick.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound real, like Jeremy's saying. It sounds like something's pre-recorded. And then they don't believe that you've got this whole amazing AI bot. So we actually essentially artificially slow it down to get to a human latency. And that, as a programmer, that's something you never want to do, just add latency for no reason. But it was to make people trust it more.
Yeah. No, I get the thought process behind that, and obviously a big part of this kind of conversation as well is about your backgrounds. I suppose something that I'm always interested in, particularly with founders, is like, what was the first point that you remember where you thought, I want to own my own business, or I want to run my own business, or I've got an idea that I want to run with. Tell us about kind of how the inception of this idea came from the first possible idea of, yeah, I want to run a business, to then, I've got a great idea, I'm going to run with it, and this is going to be what I do.
Yeah, so at university, I always thought it'd be cool to run my own business, but never really thought it would be me. And then I was in my first role. So out of university, I went into a cold outbound calling role, then went on to manage that sales team. And the first time I properly considered it was when I handed in my notice at that business. So I was going into another sales management role, a French business that was expanding into the UK. When I handed in my notice in the evening, I spoke with the CEO of that business. And he said to me, fine that I was leaving, had no issues with that. But he said, Jeremy, your future isn't in sales management. You should be running your own business one day. That's what you're going to be really good at. And I was like, yeah, fine, maybe. But this new sales role was paying really well, so I was very excited for that. But then it just kept sitting with me while I was in this next business, and it was around the time of the AI, Gen AI boom taking off. I was constantly playing with like GPT 3.5 at the time. I'd been following kind of the transformer architecture and LLM since the Attention Is All You Need paper in 2016. Played with Talk to Transformer, really liked it, didn't understand the technology much at the time, other than understanding how to use it. But it kept sitting with like, I want to do something here. Yeah. So the very first thing I did was make a tool called Sales Compass, and it was a tool that used language models to generate a hyper-personalized emails for salespeople. So we'd look at a prospect's LinkedIn profile, take all that information, take the information about the business being sold, create a personalized email. And that was a gap I saw in the market based on my sales experience. So started working on that, and then managed to get a bit of interest from some potential investors on it. The idea of neural voice was constantly nagging at me. It was like, I'd always wanted this product to exist, didn't think I'd be able to make it, but then started looking at, okay, how could I do this? Let's take it back to the core things that go into this issue, and how can I start to solve it? How can I plug together a basic prototype and see if I can impress somebody enough to put some money into this and start building it properly? That's kind of how the journey went. So it's just constantly this nagging feeling in the back of my head, like, go make it. You've wanted it to exist since you first saw Siri in like 2000 and when would that have been? 12 maybe. Yeah. That's what I saw the future being for conversational AI, and I'd always wanted it to exist, so I just thought, screw it, make it.
Yeah. And so obviously a big part of this is not just for current founders but aspiring founders as well. How would you suggest to aspiring founders that you can build readiness for when you have an idea like this? What are the skills and what's the experience that you think that someone should focus on building if they're in their earlier career?
So I think always looking to level up your skill set in any way possible. So when I was in my sales roles, one of the ways I stood out was I've always been a fairly technical person, from understanding the basics of how software and systems work and how to get the most out of them. Not a developer. As Harry will say, my development skills are...
You're getting there.
I'm improving, apparently. But sales enablement was something I really focused on in those roles. It was how can I use the CRM to be more efficient, be more automated, and be better than everybody else in the team, so I can kind of upskill there and make the most out of that. And I was constantly reading and researching how to be better at what I'm doing. I wanted to constantly be leveling up. When I went into starting my own business, again, it was reading stuff about SEIS, EIS, how that worked, how to grab investors' attention. I was good at cold calling, but how do I pitch properly to a group of investors to grab their interest? What small demos could I make that are very targeted on that individual to get them to invest? So the first person that invested, Steve Endicott, AI Steve, he's been in the travel industry for 30 plus years. So the very first demo I made of Neural Voice was a travel agent, because I knew that would grab his attention. He could see the use case of it and see where the technology could go. So it's knowing your audience as well. And there is luck in it as well. Like I got lucky with the people that I knew and the network that I'd built out. So I was able to land some investment relatively easily to get this sort of prototype built out.
Yeah. I think luck is when opportunity meets readiness as
Yep.
well, and so I think building readiness is something that anyone can do, and I think work ethic, skills, experience, putting yourself in the right environments with people, working in a startup business as well, I think is a great way to do it. But yeah, I'm really impressed by what you've done so far.
I think that one thing that we've learned as well as a business is the best way to do something is to just do it. Like I know it's a really cliche thing to say, just start it, but there'll be loads of times we're in a meeting and someone will say something along the lines of, what about this? Or why don't we think about this? And instead of us just going, yeah, okay, let's think about that. 9 times out of 10, the reason we do something is because either Jeremy or me or somebody has just made a prototype and gone, look at this kind of works. And we go, yeah, actually, yeah, that's good stuff.
Watching that Shia LaBeouf video and having Weetabix for breakfast. And
yeah, exactly. Just do it. Like honestly, like most of the time when we're starting a project, like there'll be times where Jeremy goes, here's a kind of loose idea of a half thought out feature. And I'm sitting there, at my desk just going, there's so many questions I've got here. But instead of sitting there and asking Jeremy this, and this, you just start doing something. And then eventually you get into the flow of doing that. And that kind of innovation is quite rife within our team, that people aren't afraid to just try things, because if they don't work, then we go, okay, well, at least we're not going to do that. But if they do work, then we've just had a great success out of nowhere. So
I think a perfect example of that is what you've been working on this week. So Harry's from Edinburgh. He's been down in Leeds for the past few days, and we've been working together on some stuff. One of the things we're talking about, what could we add as nice features in the product that would not be multiple sprints worth of work? What are some just quicker features that we might be able to add? One of them we discussed was something a couple customers have been asking of, when a call takes place, can you just email me letting me know that call's taken place, here's the transcript of it, here's any actions. So that's not a hugely complex feature that we could start adding. But then we looked at it from the bigger picture of, okay, if we're doing that, how could we scale that so anybody can use it? And we started looking at things I've used in the past. So I've used things like Zapier. I've used things like Make to make automations. So we just thought, okay, how hard would it be to make a native app within make.com? And so people can build out their own integration suites from Neural Voice if they don't want us to do it. So they can have more control over what happens after a conversation. Rather than us in-house an email feature, well, you've got us in Make, which is free for a lot of people. You've got email function in there. Build it yourself. Have the freedom to use that without spending more money with us. Like, I know I want your money at the end of the day, but if it's going to bring more users in and give them more functionality, awesome.
So you've got an API that people can connect to quite easily as well, which means that you can, I guess, connect emails or different systems, documents.
Yeah, so we connect with over
CRMs.
150 different CRMs out of the box. We can connect with different email systems. Right now, most of that is in-house. We don't have an openly accessible API. But what Harry's been looking at this week is how we make that a bit more accessible with something like make.com.
yeah, we're mainly for non-developers. We're for business people and people who are essentially non-technical, so that they can deploy voice AI agents whenever they want to wherever they want. A lot of other companies these days are focused at developers. So there's loads of APIs, there's loads of SDKs, there's all the sorts of different acronyms that you could go over of what they've got. What we're trying to do is really simplify that down. And by using something like Make, we're kind of bridging that gap between our custom integrations in-house, where you go, hey, I want you to do this, and this after a call. And we can go, yeah, we'll build that for you, no problem. But with Make, it enables somebody sort of like what Jeremy would be like, where you're slightly more technical minded, but you're not quite a developer. And they go, I really want to play around with what I can do with this stuff. So we go, here you go. Here's a way that you can just get all the information you need, go and decide what you want to do from it. And I'm sure that in the future, when we have a good integration and someone's like, oh, look at this cycle I've made, we'll be like, that's a pretty good idea. Like, why don't we think of that? And I think it really puts sort of the creativity back onto our clients, which some appreciate. Obviously, some want you to just do everything for them. But allowing people to do what they want with your system and really customize it down, I think is inevitably going to bring loads of users in.
Yeah, and like you say, different people will want different data out of it. And so that kind of level of flexibility must be pretty good, because then people can, like you say, customize it themselves, or at least explore some of the technology. They might have already some automations set up, and they can then hook you into that.
I'm a tinkerer. I like to take a tool and see, okay, how can I stretch this further than what is offered on the plate without having to wait ages for them to implement it. I just want to play around and see what can be built. So an integration system like this, for me, would be awesome. I would love that as an end user. So we tend to go with, okay, if we can see the use case internally of why that would be great, let's try build it, see how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing as well is, it puts the onus back on the customer to kind of decide what they want. A lot of the times when we're building integrations, like there's no way we're going to be able to guess what a massive like multinational corporation wants to do with the data after a call. We can do general things like send an email, send a text, book a meeting. But if they've got these really intricate flows, we'll go, show us what you want. And if it's good, we can do something about it.
We also really want to encourage creativity. The first thing you see when you have a sales conversation around neural voices, people's minds go wild. They think of like 20 different things they could do just by having an AI voice agent in their business. They want to play around with things, maybe not do a full implementation. So they want to test the waters, see what it works, and then if that's working, come back to us and say, okay, can you build this properly using neural voice?
Yeah.
So giving them the creativity to explore that more easily and in-house that is really great.
Because like you were saying earlier, I guess it's only as good as the time and effort that you put into giving it the data that then gives it the right direction and the right parameters and stuff.
Exactly.
And so the more you use it, the more it develops, the more you can kind of customize it. And I guess there's a way that it sounds like you've got a pretty off-the-shelf package, but also there's a way of customizing it over time and building something that's bespoke. Very good. And so a big thing that I always think is important within a business is mindset, culture, and environment. Can you tell us a bit about how you've tried to shape that within Neural Voice, how it's benefited you all, and kind of how you've managed to build the togetherness of a company where it sounds like you're doing some pretty exciting stuff?
So for me, I always want to be able to build a very relaxed culture. That was kind of something instilled to me by the last company I worked for. Being able to be flexible, get the holidays when you want the holidays, be able to work the sort of hours and times that you want to work, not being super strict on everything. And that's part of being a startup as well. So that's something I've always focused on. And creativity is something I really want to instill in the workplace. That sort of tinkerer mindset. As Harry said, I'm always throwing new ideas out there. He wants to stop some of them, but
Sometimes
explore
too
some
many.
of them. Yeah. But in a startup, you need to be trying new things constantly, especially in the AI world where there is a new development every single day.
Yeah.
We need to be able to explore that, even if it's just thinking about it and considering how this could improve it and constantly looking at, okay, where are these areas of improvement? Like, as Al Pacino said, it's a game of inches. If you can add that 1 inch here, there, and everywhere, you end up with a mile eventually. So it's those small improvements everywhere to make the business improve.
And in an industry where it's developing so quickly, how do you stay ahead?
Just constant innovation, I think. I think kind of going back to the last question as well as answering this question would be, our team is a very young, fairly fresh face, but has loads of experience in very specific areas. So for I've just come straight out of uni essentially into this job. This is my first job after uni. And one of the old CTO that we had always said that he liked hiring young developers because they didn't know what wasn't possible. So, and that's true with all of our team, I think. So everyone in our team is fairly new to the game, but is also picked up loads of experience very quickly due to the fact we're a small company. We have multiple projects going on. It's not like you're going straight into a massive corporation and working on a tiny bit. Like Jeremy used to use the analogy of working at Meta and spending your whole career designing a like button, whereas we're constantly shipping out projects from start to finish. And with that comes a lot of experience very quickly. And that also creates a very innovative culture where people aren't afraid to try things. And like I said earlier, we're not afraid to try new things. So the team is constantly just coming up with ideas. Jeremy's coming up with ideas. We're trying them. We're making them, and we're going, yeah, that works. And we can switch and move quite quickly because we're quite a lean team, and we can get things over the line a lot faster. And we don't have much process blocking us in the way. Jeremy is one of the things he hates the most is process, because process stops you doing things quickly. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I think we're staying ahead and constantly pushing out, is just because we don't have that much process to stopping us innovating and trying new things.
There's areas where process is very important.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But being able to remain flexible in that process to bring new ideas in. I think an important part of building that culture as well is the ability to fail. Like if you're trying something new, more likely than not, it's probably going to fail because you're doing something different. But you can't be criticized for that failure ever. Like, otherwise we're never going to try new things, or people are going to be scared to try new things. Like, fail, go ahead and fail, and then learn something from that failure and instill that into the next thing that you try. And that's really important.
If we always got everything right, we'd never learn anything. And there's been a lot of times where we've done stuff and gone, yeah, that was kind of stupid. Yeah. But then we've learned from it and we've gone, or you finish something and you go after it, you're like, yeah, obviously that wasn't the right thing to do. But then you know that. And when you say obviously in hindsight, it's not obvious at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we finish something and everyone's sitting there going, that was stupid.
Yeah.
And then we realize, that's us learning. We've learned that now and we won't make that mistake again.
Yeah. And obviously, a big part of staying ahead is fundraising, and that's something that you've been quite successful with so far. You mentioned your first investor, Steve Endicott, and the kind of backstory behind that. Just talk to us a bit about how you've then kicked on from that and gone through your angel investment rounds and how you've gone through kind of caught in a few VCs.
Yeah, I love fundraising because I really enjoy pitching. I love standing up in front of people and just telling people why I love this business.
Yeah,
he's a show off.
Yeah, I'm a show off. But I think that passion kind of works really well with investors. Investors in this stage invest in people, and they invest in the concept, and they invest in the team behind that concept. Because it's always a bit of a punt at this stage in a pre-seed sort of round. Less so now that we've got the prototype out the door and we've got customers coming on board. But it's really great to, I love the pitch stage of things. So we've worked with angel investors throughout this project so far, and we work with multiple angel groups, and now we're in the stage of raising our seed round. And we're working with multiple VCs to make that happen. Whether it's a joint investment, whether we end up working with one, we're trying to make sure we get the best deal possible. By the time this podcast comes out, hopefully we've done that. But the aim of this raise right now is to take what we've built and build out a commercial team around it to really bring it to market, land us more customers, and then keep innovating on top of that. We want to make sure we're always ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation, but we really need a commercial team at the same time to bring it to market. Right now, I'm our entire commercial team, I'm our fundraising team, I'm our finance team, and then we just got developers. So that commercial team is something really important, and a financial director. We need a financial director.
Very good. And so we talked about Steve. We talked about the kind of the process there, just in a bit more detail, specifically for people that are maybe fundraising at the moment or thinking of fundraising. How did you go about going that one step beyond friends and family and people that you already knew? Where did you then decide to go for searching for external investment?
But first thing is referrals. So if you've already landed a few angel investors, speak to who they know. If they're high net worth individuals, they probably know a lot more high net worth individuals that are into similar things. So you expand that network out from there. Start working with angel investor networks. They have large networks of angel investors that might be interested, and you get to pitch in front of them, and some will convert, some won't. But don't let those that don't convert get you down. Make sure all angel networks provide fantastic feedback. Because they really want to encourage the growth of businesses. So if you don't succeed in it, take that feedback on board. I'm very quick to dismiss some bits of feedback, but probably just because I don't want to dwell on it too much. But there are some valuable lessons in there. So yeah, listening to that feedback, angel networks, referrals. Referrals are the big one that kind of really took us to finishing that pre-seed round and starting on that seed round for us.
Very good.
And having a good chairman as well.
Yeah.
So we had Steve to start with. Steve was critical to that friends and family, making sure friends and family raise, making sure we were bringing in those referrals from the angels we got. Then we brought Kumi for the seed round. So he's working with us on angel networks more directly. He's got lots of connections there and making sure we're prepared for the institutional round, because me and Steve had no idea how to approach an institutional round. Neither of us have ever done it before. Kumi's been there, done it. So bringing on a chairman that's able to navigate that landscape is crucial.
Very good. And so what would you say the biggest challenges that you've had so far, and how have you dealt with them?
I think where the stress lies in all of this for me is making sure our employees that we have at the end of the day are happy in their role and making sure they're paid on time every single month, because we've got some really great people in this team. So I never want to get to the bit that keeps me awake at night is the fear of one day I have to have a meeting and say, we're out of money, guys. And that's what drives me every day to make sure we're bringing in more customers, we're bringing in more investment, we can scale, because I never want to have that conversation. And that conversation terrifies me. So I'm always ahead of it, making sure we never get to that stage. And I've always got a card to pull if we even got close to that. Luckily, we've never been close to that conversation, but that's what motivates me every single day and drives me.
I think from a more day-to-day perspective, and from my perspective as a lead developer, our biggest concerns that we have are that there's so much we want to do, and just we don't have the resource to do everything. So it's about trying to pick the things we want to do and hopefully they pay off. Sometimes there's things that we spend a bit of effort on and then maybe a deal doesn't come through or the feature kind of doesn't work out like we thought it would. And then other times, something that we took a little punt on works, it turns out to be amazing. Yeah. So the biggest issue we have is sort of allocating the resource and ensuring we're doing the right thing. And as we grow as a team, that gets easier and easier because you have more manpower. But in the early stages, you really need to focus because everyone doing different things at the same time, it really gets a bit messy.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge in a startup is that resource allocation. There's so much you want to do and so little time to do it with the amount of people that you've got that are able to do it. So being able to focus is really important.
Especially in the industry we're in where it's, as Jeremy said earlier, it's changing every single day. It is difficult to narrow down that focus, but I think we do a really good job of it. Yeah,
it certainly sounds like it. Obviously, I'm familiar with you from people that have recommended us and put us in touch, and obviously off the back of that, starting to get a level of interest in the business myself. What would you say are the biggest opportunities that you've got ahead of you, and how are you kind of trying to capture them?
Oh, they're left, right, and center. 2025 is the big year for agentic AI. So AI that can do tasks, make decisions, and actually have value. Like a lot of AI up to this point has been like GPT wrappers that will just write blogs and stuff. But now it's how can AI actually do stuff for us? And that's what we've been building for day one. So 2025 as a whole in the investment community is massive for us because everyone's focused on agentic AI. We spent the last 18 months building a great agentic AI. So we're really excited about that. I'm just really excited about where voice AI goes as a whole. I think there's so much development for it. One thing I mention all the time internally is the film Her. It's a great voice AI-driven film, and I really like where AI is going in that sort of direction, to have those natural sort of relationships that can form with AI. So yeah, I'm excited about all of that. And we're starting to bring on some really interesting customers. We're starting to make some sort of waves when actually selling and bring on big enterprise customers and working with these big brands who can propel us further and we can do great things for them. That's so exciting.
I think a big thing as well is that the Labour government have said that they want the UK to become a big AI power. And they've talked about kind of the regulations and stuff that will be coming in or lack thereof. But it really brings AI to the forefront of people's minds. Like it obviously was a big buzzword when, ChatGPT first came out. Everyone was talking about Gen AI. Whereas now it's becoming a bit more of a serious thing. And you see France have just, billions and billions of pounds to make data centers and stuff like that. It's always at the forefront of people's minds. So the opportunity is almost just rife out there for us to grab it. And there's so much maybe just over the horizon that is going to come to us in a few years.
Yeah. No, very good. I have to say, I'm really impressed by the work that you're doing and by the ideas that you've got. What would you say would be your main advice for other people, like we say, aspiring founders, thinking about what their idea will be or what they want to do in the future? Particularly as well for people that want to maybe go and work at a startup first, how would you say that they approach it?
Two main things. Be prepared to fail. So as I said, first thing I made was Sales Compass. Loved the concept. The implementation was good. Didn't take off. And I didn't, I was ready to move on and try something different. I went in with the mindset that this is a punt. I don't know if this is going to work, but I know I've got 20 other ideas I can build if it doesn't work. And what kind of comes with that is don't take things personally. At the end of the day, people are making business decisions. They're not doing stuff about your personality most of the time. Like if someone doesn't want to invest, it's not because they hate you, it's because they hate what you've built, it's because it's not right for them. So I try to take everything as when it comes to business as least personally as possible, because it's not about me at the end of the day.
I think for someone wanting to go and work in a startup, especially considering I've been here since the start and coming straight out of uni and having a first job be a startup, you need to be ready for stuff to just be thrown at you left, right, and center. A lot of my friends from university have gone into work in grad schemes in larger companies, and there is progression. They learn. It's a very kind of linear, do this, then you do this, then you do this. When I first started working at Neural Voice, it was straight in the deep end. Here's a project. Let's get this working. Let's do the next thing. Jump ahead.
But you could probably run circles around any of those people now that have been grad schemes. So you've done so many different things.
You learn. You get exposed to so much very quickly. And it can be daunting. And I won't lie, in the early days, there was a lot of times where I'd finish a week of work and be like, I've just done so much here. Like, I'm not, there's so much going on in my head. There's this idea, there's that idea. But that's the way that I thrive. And I think you have to be a certain type of person to actually enjoy working in a startup. A lot of the time it can be frustrating because you're switching through things all the time. So many things are coming in. There's this customer here, there's this customer here, there's this investor that wants to do this stuff. But you almost sort of thrive in the chaos because you get something, you do it quickly, you get it finished, onto the next thing. And yeah, like Jeremy said, don't be afraid to fail, because if you're going into something kind of almost defensively doing it and being defensive minded and trying to make sure that it doesn't fail, you're never going to learn anything. If you get everything right first time, you're like, it's just luck. You don't really learn anything from that.
I think on top of that as well, like, I've always known I'm somebody that works best when I'm stressed. I thrive when there's a lot on top of me. If you don't, this isn't the life for you, because there's constantly a million things on top of you, a million things to do. And I love that. I love that. And I know if Neural Voice failed tomorrow, I would go do this again, because I absolutely love what I do. I love working for myself, creating this business, bringing in great people to work on it. Like, I thrive in this environment. If you don't enjoy what you do every day, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I get up out of bed every day excited to see what's going to happen next.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, obviously, this is a podcast by founders, for founders. There will be exited founders that will be listening to this, some that might potentially be angel investors themselves. There might be some potential clients that are listening to this for you. What would be your message to them? What would be the type of introductions or clients that or investors that you'd be interested in speaking to?
We love working with people that are just passionate about the technology, from customers to investors. The people that jump on a meeting with us and first experience it with you, and you see kind of that light bulb moment happen in their head, and this happened with a customer we were on a call with yesterday. They hadn't experienced it. They were a referral, and we demoed it to them, and they were just kind of in silence for a few seconds after we finished the demo, and one of the guys just went, "That was awesome."
Yep.
I love working with investors and customers that are like that and really see the potential straight away. Because there's so many avenues voice technology can go down. It's just people that are passionate about the technology, from investors to customers to anybody that wants to be involved in it. That's what I love to work with.
And I would say, if anyone's listened to this and gotten any kind of interest or has heard of us before or is even thinking about it whatsoever, just try it. Honestly, like the amount of times we've been on a call, like the one we had yesterday, you sit on a call, you show someone it, and they're like, and that's real. That's live. It's not recorded. And you're like, that's all real. So if you're even thinking about it, just give it a go. Honestly, just try it.
Saying that, so on our website, neural-voice.ai, we have AI agents and characters on that website that you can just click a button and have a conversation. You don't need to sign up or anything. You don't need to put any card details in. We try and make these demos as accessible as possible because we really want people to understand what the future of voice AI looks like. We're not hiding anything away. We're not going in with this snake oil pitch of, oh, this is awesome, it's super real. Go experience it and you'll believe us.
And we've got a free trial for if you're creating one as well. So if you want to just use one, go on our website, have a look at it. If you want to sign up to our platform, create one, customize it a bit to your business, try deploying it on your own website. You can do all that completely for free. So honestly, the best thing to do is just try it.
Cool. Very good. Well, yeah, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great to have a chat with you both. We will put an email address across the bottom of the podcast as well for anyone who wants an introduction or who wants more details about the business too. So if you are interested, reach out. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. It's been good, James.
Cheers. Thank you.